Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about how to navigate in OnShape and use some of the tools. This is one of the most important videos, so make sure you're paying attention and taking down notes if needed. The first thing we're going to look at is CADShape.com, OnShape.com, and the help section on view, navigation, and viewing parts. This shows all the different navigation for each different software. For Windows, these are the control keys. To 3D rotate, use right mouse click button plus drag. To zoom in and out, scroll up and down respectively using your mouse scroll wheel. To 2D pan, press the control right mouse button plus drag. You can also use middle button, click plus drag. Using your keyboard, you can 3D rotate 15 degrees using your arrow keys, rotate 3 degrees by pressing the shift and arrow keys, and continually rotate by pressing and hold the shift, pressing and hold the arrow key. To zoom in and out, press shift Z, and to zoom out, press Z. To 2D pan on a keyboard, press Control Shift arrow key. In just a minute, I'll be demonstrating all these processes. Touchpad is a bit more complicated, so I suggest you have a mouse. 3D rotate, you have to right mouse button drag, click and drag. Zoom in and out, pinch in and out respectively. And to 2D pan, you press the control, then right, and while clicking the right mouse button and dragging. For using an Apple mouse and keyboard, it's almost exactly the same, just using slightly different keys. I got to this website by searching up how to navigate in OnShape and clicking on the first link. I'll also be putting this link in the description. So let's go to OnShape so I can demonstrate all of these things. So I'm going to go to OnShape, and your screen should look something like this when you log into OnShape. The first thing I'm going to be doing is pressing this button on the top left corner. It's labeled Create. I want to create a new document. The name of the document will be example. And if you click, if it's their first time on this website, you might see a little blue menu showing you how to use some of the features. But I'm going to be demonstrating this, so you don't need that. Okay, so this is what everyone's screen should look like. You'll see there's these 2D lines or 2D planes. That there are 3 of them, and this box right here. The first thing we'll be looking at is using the mouse to 3D rotate. So I'm going to press the right mouse button and drag. You'll see what a 3D rotate looks like now. This is what it looks like. It all depends on where I move the mouse. Because you're moving in 3 dimensions, it's very hard to understand what's going on. You can see as I'm moving up and down, that's how it turns, and left and right. It's very hard to understand what's going on. Now, to get back to normal, the easiest thing for me to do, and what I suggest to do, is you click on this box thing in the top right corner, and you can press this down arrow and go to isometric. and it'll take you back to normal. But let's say you can also do it. Let's say we're here. You can click on the box to go to that particular side, and you can use the arrow keys, or you can click on it like so. But the easiest thing for me is to just click this little box underneath and press isometric. There's also dimetric and trimetric. Those are just different view angles. This is dimetric and this is trimetric. Practically the same. Okay, next. We already did 3D rotate with the mouse. Now zoom in and out. To do that, you just zoom in and out with your mouse. And wherever your mouse cursor is where it's going to zoom in and out. So let's say I put it onto this dot in the center. It's going to zoom right to the center. But let's say I want it to zoom into this corner. I put my mouse here, and it's going to zoom there. Pretty simple. Next, 2D pan. This is one of the most useful tools. To do that, you have to press the control button, the right mouse button, plus drag. So, I'm going to hold down the control button and drag with my right mouse button. This is what it should look. Let me go back to isometric. And this is what when I have the control button and the right mouse button and drag, this is what happens. It goes in a 2D plane. You're no longer going in 3 dimensions. It's much simpler to use. Let's say you wanted to move up and down, you can do that. You could also change the view so you can go like this. You're only controlling 2 dimensions. It's much easier to control than this 3-dimension stuff. This is 2-dimension and this is 3-dimension. So I'm going to go back to normal by pressing isometric. Now if you only, when you're using your keyboard, you can 3D rotate by pressing the arrow keys. This is what it looks like. Touchpad, I'm not going to go into that. And for the Apple mouse and keyboard, it's the same steps, except when it says Control RMB plus drag, that just means you press the control button, right mouse button, plus drag. And if you scroll down on this website, you can see how it talks about the trimetric and using this view box. Now, if you're using an iOS, Android, or iPadOS device, these controls will be a bit different. Unfortunately, I will not be able to help you in that department since I do not have the experience. However, if you have any questions, let me know and I can do my best to help you. Next up, since now we know how to basically navigate in OnShape using 3D pan, which is just a right click and drag, rotating using the arrow keys, and 2D pan, which is going in only 2 dimensionals up and down, left and right. Now, let's get started with actually using some of the tools. Before we make any tools, use any of the tools, we have to make some sketches of objects. To do that, we press the sketch button in the top left corner. You can also use your keyboard, Shift S, but I'm going to be showing you right now just using the buttons on the screen so you can understand what I'm doing. I'll be pressing the sketch button, And now it's going to ask, select a sketch plane. What that means is it's asking for which dimension do you want your sketch to be in. It can only be in one dimension for now. So the three options are front, right, and top. I'm going to do the top plane because it's the flat one. It makes more sense in my head, but it doesn't really matter. Next, this is the best thing to do. You right click, press View Normal to Sketch Plane, and it might show it rotated. To fix this rotation, you just press these arrow keys, or you can use your own arrow key from your keyboard. Now you're seeing just a box. Doesn't look three-dimensional at all, just a 2D object. You'll see also these tools are very different than what was before. Right now I'm just going to show you how to make a basic cube, and later on we're going to be making some more cool shapes. So I'm going to press this rectangle. Right now it's set to corner rectangle. You can press this down arrow right next to it to change it to center point rectangle. I'll be using that button. And you'll see my mouse also changes to this cross type symbol. I'll place my rectangle wherever I want it to be. But right now I just want it to be in the exact center of the sketch plane. So that's where that orange dot is. Then I can drag out my cube or rectangle to whatever size I want. Once I am done with that, you'll see my mouse is still in that cross shape. It will keep staying like that unless you change tools by pressing the escape key or clicking this button up here. So you'll see my mouse is back to normal. If I didn't do that, every time I try to click, I'm going to be making a new rectangle, which I don't want. Oh, and to undo and redo is Control Z, or you can just press these buttons up here. Control Z, Control Y. The only other tool we'll be looking at in the sketch plane is the dimension tool. You can press this button up here, or you can press the D key on your keyboard. To use it, you'll see your mouse turns back into that cross symbol, and you have to click on either 2 points or a line. Basically the same thing, but anyways, I'm going to click on this line right here, and you'll see this diagram thing shows up showing the length of the side. Once I click my left mouse button down, a little entering key opens, and I can put whatever numbers I want. Let's say I want 3, and it's going to stay whatever unit it was in already, but let's say I want it in 3 centimeters or millimeters. That's what it's going to become. 3 millimeters is very small, and then I'll convert it back into inches because that's my primary unit. So I'm going to double click on it, change it back to 3 inches, just like that. And I can do that for this other side. And let's say I want to make this into a cube. I'll make that also 3. So now it's a cube. That's all we're going to be talking about in the sketch tools. Once I'm done with the sketch, I will press this button up here with the check mark. And you'll see it looks back to normal when we first started. The last tool we'll be talking about today is using this tool right here called Extrude, or Shift E. Extrude, what it does, if you hover on it, it'll show an explanation of what each tool does. It basically makes a sketch you made into a three-dimensional object. It pulls that 2D image into a 3D object, and you'll see how it works in this demonstration right here. So I'm going to be clicking that tool, and it says, like, this little blue area says select face or sketch region to extrude. I'm going to be selecting my square I made, and now I can change the depth, which way it extrudes it, but we won't be talking about that right now. And to see what it really looks like, I'm going to be using, I can either use this, the viewfinder box to press these arrows, or I can just right click and drag to see how it looks like. And that's what it looks like. But since I want to make this a perfect cube, I have to make it to 3 inches tall, or the depth of it is 3 inches. So I'm going to enter 3, press and enter. You can also use this up arrow right here, but it's not as exact as entering an actual number, but still useful. But anyways, 3 inches. And once I'm happy with how it looks, I press the green check mark. And there we go. We got a cube in this example. One bonus step I'm going to be showing you right now is rounding the sides. Rounding the sides is almost never a necessary step, but it always looks really cool. This might help you to make your own dice, or a die, also known as a rolling cube in elementary school terms. So I'm going to be pressing this tool right here called Fillet, or Shift F, and that basically just rounds a side. As we know from geometry, these corner things are called edges. And I can click on each edge I want to be round. If I click on the entire side, it does it all for me. So I can just click it. Then I can also change how much it's rounded by pressing this arrow, similar to the extrude, or changing the radius. Sometimes if you change it too much, it might cause an error. You can also change the circular to conic to curvature. I never used those options before. I just leave it to what it normally sets it to. But if you change the radius by clicking this arrow, you can see how it slowly becomes a sphere. Although that might cause errors. But I think something like that looks pretty nice looking. So I'm going to, and it turns out to be 0.6 inches. It might be different for you. And that is my final thing for today. It's just a rounded cube. Not really useful for anything, but it's a really easy shape we can make that in another software such as Tinkercad would be really complicated to make. That's the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. And since this lesson is so important, make sure to re-watch it if you have any questions. And thank you.